The end of karma, eternal life. Friends, you have a tendency to call the moment you leave your current body death. And because you consider what you tend to call death to be your end, you naturally don't like it, and so you tend to be sad. And likewise, it is because of this preoccupation with your own idea of the end that you tend to be jealous of those who are subject to the same ideas and have not yet ended, as you have according to your collective religious creed of beginnings and endings. From this state of displeasure, which you yourself are the originator of, you quite automatically try to escape into an idea that you would like, and on the basis of this subjective state of mind, you wish to create the idea of a new beginning, i.e., a rebirth or reincarnation. Because of this subjective disposition of yours, you then wish to seek out the kind of beings through whom you can reincarnate, beings you will call my parents at the moment of your rebirth, in your escape from the ideas of disliking to the ideas of liking. What you miss in your preoccupation with this game, in which repeated ideas of beginnings alternate with repeated ideas of endings, is that every worldly activity involves these ideas of beginnings and endings, and that therefore, if you repeatedly establish another cause of your next rebirth, you automatically establish with that cause all the other effects that are naturally associated with each such cause. This means that every single rebirth simultaneously and automatically includes within itself the repetitions of re-illness, re-aging, re-dying, and likewise the reassociation with what is currently nice and pleasant to you, and the subsequent disassociation from it, and likewise and naturally the reassociation with what is currently not nice and not pleasant to you, and the subsequent disassociation from it. Among other things, this therefore means that if, at the moment when you lose this temporary body of yours, you establish a cause to recreate a new body, you automatically establish a cause that carries with it the consequences of experiencing duality, which includes the ideas of good and evil, i.e., what you experience through your recreated body as the ideas of pleasant and unpleasant, which is naturally related to the fact that what may currently appear pleasant may appear unpleasant a moment later, and what may currently appear unpleasant may appear pleasant a moment later. Every situation of rebirth therefore entails a situation of duality, whose nature is in fact a real situation of schizophrenia. That means that the attributes of the ideas of beginning and end are simultaneously attached to every single cause of the idea of any worldly activity. In other words, this means that if you create a beginning, you simultaneously also create an end of this beginning. This means that with every idea of the beginning of me that you create, and the ideas of mine attached to it, you are also simultaneously creating the ideas of their end. This actually means that whatever you believe you are engaged in, you were finished with it before you even began it. And this means that you are not actually engaging in those ideas of activity. You are merely dreaming about engaging in something. And while you are preoccupied with and immersed in this game, you are missing both the true nature of this game and the fact and reality that you are playing this game. And if that escapes you, you have no chance of ending your sleep. And if you don't have a chance of ending your sleep, you have no chance of stopping dreaming and realizing that while any beings believe they are engaged in something, Because of this preoccupation, they fail to see that they are already in eternity. So, in connection with the above, here is some information as to why all of the above, without a single exception, is fundamental for you. If you already have good karma and have therefore received the above message in the sense that you have understood it, that means that you have received the knowledge and understanding of the Buddha. This means that at the moment you leave this current body of yours, you no longer have to succumb to the tendency to call the situation of leaving your temporary body death, and thus you no longer have to succumb to ideas of sorrow, ideas of disappointment, ideas of injustice, ideas of jealousy. And instead of being preoccupied with these ideas, you gain freedom in the sense of the possibility and opportunity to register that you are at the starting point, which is free from both the ideas of beginnings and the ideas of endings, i.e., primal Buddhahood. From the situation of this impartial vision of Buddhahood, you now have the possibility and opportunity to speak to yourself in a completely different way than you have been doing, without your previous tendencies, in the sense of, I can undergo another incarnation, but I no longer have to. And this little thing, the little thing of, I can, but I don't have to, though not easily perceived, is fundamental for all of you, precisely because a being who registers this little thing and who is subsequently aware of this little thing has the possibility and opportunity to put an end to his tendency to all internal contradictions and conflicts, thanks to which he naturally puts an end to all external conflicts, i.e., the end of the tendency to war, i.e., unconditionality, i.e., equality. It is beings like this who will break out of the cycle of birth and death of Samsara through the knowledge of the Buddha, and will leave this cycle, and will thus subsequently obtain the possibility of devoting themselves to higher forms of happiness, i.e. nirvana, which I wish for all of you with all my heart of the Buddha. No other beings have this possibility, and if they do not have it, they have no chance of exiting the cycle of birth and death of samsara. And if they have no chance of exiting samsara, there is no and can be no future paradise for such beings. Yes, it is this little thing, I can, but I no longer have to, that separates you all, without exception, from what are known as the Ascended Masters. Beings who are aware of this possibility and opportunity, and who also take responsibility for this possibility and opportunity, triumph over the world, because they have their destiny, i.e. karma, in their hands. That cannot be said of any other being. Ancient wisdom says, knowledge leads through suffering. And that is why I say to all seekers of ultimate knowledge who wish to step out of the vicious circle of suffering, responsibility is as light as a burden. This is because ignorance of this universal law is no excuse, and failure to take responsibility for knowing it leads to loss of the right to eternal life, and so naturally to the consequences of further suffering. It is for this reason that I speak to you all and remind you that the ideas of death and life, as you have been taught to perceive them, are mere concepts that exist in reality only because it is you who give them such meanings in cooperation with other collective dreamers. And it is because of this preoccupation with these ideas of concepts that beings fail to understand that eternal life happens and takes place constantly, and does so beyond all the limited ideas of these limited concepts, which beings profess as their religion only because they have not yet acquired the opportunity to receive and understand the knowledge of the Buddha, or they have acquired the opportunity but have not been properly attentive to this fundamental opportunity with regard to themselves and their loved ones. It is precisely because of the inattention that causes these beings to fail to see their tendency to collectively dream their situation of sleep that such beings are called beings destined to die by my chief patron and teacher, the exalted Buddha Shakyamuni called Gautama. And it is for this reason that he clearly states, beings who leave the level of belief in this dream and raise themselves above it through the knowledge of the Buddha transcend this level of belief in this dream and become unlimited beings, i.e. without beginning and without end, i.e. constantly unlimited, i.e. in the sense of non-mortal. In view of all this then, the fear of the concept of death as such is unwarranted, for it is only a concept. Because what is appropriate to fear in a good sense, and what it is appropriate to avoid so that a being does not repeatedly fall asleep, is the situation where you will, for whatever reason, be deprived of the knowledge of the Buddhas. And because of this deprivation, the core of which is ignorance in the sense of not knowing what the Buddha says, you will repeatedly undergo the cycle of repeated rebirth in the 6 realms of Samsara, with all the other consequences that such rebirth involves. And you will do so without the certainty of repeatedly incarnating into realms in which there is a Buddha who you will register and who will be equally willing to set forth the knowledge of the Buddhas to you so that you can truly understand his message, and thus gain your own and the ultimate knowledge that it is not at all necessary to undergo all of that, which actually makes no sense at all. Therefore, if you truly love yourself and your loved ones, quieten yourself inwardly and pay attention. And in order to enable yourself to know the Buddha, read this once again or several times in peace and quiet. But equally, do not blindly believe what I have told you here. Hold it within yourself as a way of exploring, so that you can subject it to truly critical scrutiny before you even reject it, so that you can verify it for yourselves. Because I guarantee that if you allow yourself to do so, you will find that everything I am telling you now is the most fundamental message ever for you and your loved ones. In the above sense, therefore, do not take yourself or your loved ones lightly. For if you do not embrace yourselves through the wisdom of the knowledge of the Buddhas, no one else will do it for you, let alone someone who does not have the possibility and opportunity to do it for themselves. Jesus Christ and the other prophets also came to tell you in their own language the same thing that I am sharing with all of you. And I likewise am dedicating it to you as a gift to celebrate on the 9th anniversary of my attainment of enlightenment on the 7th of August 2012. For those who wish to understand the message of the Buddhas of all times more thoroughly, I have summarized all the essentials in my main legacy, the book Maitreya Buddha Sutra, or Emptiness, Mother of the Heirs to Immortality. May all beings register the Buddhas and what the Buddhas say. May they fully understand it for themselves and their loved ones. May they recognize in it the possibility and opportunity to grant grace to themselves and their fellow beings. May they thus acquire the possibility and opportunity to break free from samsara, the cycle of birth and death. And may nirvana be their home. This is my last birth.